Can you hear me now?
When we're trying to do stuff. So I'm going to call this Star City Council meeting to order. It's Tuesday, June 4th, 2024 at 7:17 p.m. Can you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. And tonight's invocation is by Bishop Scott Snelders with the Second Ward Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. If you come up here, make sure, I think, is that on, Ryan? It's on? Okay, thank you.
Our Father in heaven, we're indeed grateful, Father, for this evening to be able to be joined here together as the Star City Council meeting. Father, we ask at this time to pray, to bless our mayor and city council members and all those that are participating in this meeting tonight. We pray, Father, for our police and our fire department and for all those that serve and protect our great city. We pray, Father, for the citizens of this city that they might show an abundance of kindness and service and love for each other. We pray that thou may be with us and protect us and help us in the things which we set out to achieve, and that thy love will be upon the city. And these things we pray for in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Hershey. Here. Wheelock. Here. Chadwick.
Here.
Salmonson.
He needs a new remote, or a new microphone. She's here, but
Nielsen.
Present, attending remotely.
Perfect.
there we go.
I'm on now.
All right, and then you got Nielsen there. Nielsen is attending remotely for us.
Did you hear me, Mayor?
I did. I got you.
Perfect.
Yep. Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on to item 4, the consent agenda.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman.
I move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of item 4A, the approval of minutes for April 16th, 2024, with one change. It is on page 10 in the Milled Olive Council deliberation section. We just need to change that the food truck hours are Monday to Sunday, 8 to 10. The way they're in there now is incorrect. Okay, so that item 4A, item 4B, the approval of claims minus the Garrett Parks and Play claim of $166,487.80.
Okay.
Item 4C, findings of fact, conclusion of law for Milled Olive reconsideration. Item 4D, final plat, Naismith Commons Phase 3. And item 4E, easement vacation for the Starcrest Ranch apartment property.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey. Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Thank you. Move on to item 5, the public hearings. We're going to start out with 5A, the public hearing, the continuation of the public hearing for the UDC updates. I think Sean has some updates for us based on our last hearing here about a month ago. And then we will vote on this section, and then we'll move on to the municipal code section. And just so everybody's aware, we've been working on these for the last about 7 months, these updates, starting last November timeframe. Or 8 months, I guess. We're in June now, right? Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
There we go.
There we go. Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you. First public hearing is for the Unified Development Code updates, which is Title 8 of the Municipal Code. This is a continuation from your previous May council meeting, which you sent staff back to do some minor revisions to what was presented at that meeting. Staff has provided that additional information in your packet. Updating those concerns that you had at the May 7th meeting. We did remove the build to rent specific references, updated some of the definitions, zoning district uses, landscape buffering, exterior building elevations, and fencing was all part of those minor revisions that you had. So at this point, staff will stand for any additional questions you have.
Right, and the big challenges we had were dealing with animal stuff, which we'll talk about later, right, in a different municipal section.
Different title.
Yep, okay. Okay, Councilman Nielsen, do you have any questions on this section at all?
Nothing in particular. Were there any changes made that we need to review for public benefit?
Sean?
Mr. Mayor, Council Member Nielsen and staff met last week and went over some of his concerns because he was not going to be present today. And one of the things we decided was the removal of the build to rent and also later on the removal of the animal ordinance, so we can do a little fine tuning on that before we bring it back before you for consideration.
Okay. Does that suffice, Councilman Nielsen?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, so we have a couple people that want to come and testify. And we have Mr. Todd Collins. You at, sir? There you are. I think that's the same one that we just got, right? Oh, a different one from that one?
Good evening, Todd Collins, 4718 North Echo Summit Way, Star, Idaho. And I just I have a bullet point list basically that I handed out to you guys over some of the things mostly in Title 8 that I wanted to go over. What concerned me in part was there were 7 additional items that give the administrator control over. The first one is public hearing process, pre-application meeting, neighborhood meetings, and posting of public hearing notices. The big one on this is the neighborhood meetings, because it gives the administrator the say-so, and if there is going to be a neighborhood meeting or not. If he says there isn't, there's no public input to the developer before the public hearing. Next one is indefinite deferral process. It says indefinite deferral does not prevent the administrator and or council from initiating updated code or policy requirements. My question is, should that include comprehensive plan changes as well? Annexation and zoning rezone. Under standards, it says that may include a concept plan. I'm wondering if that shouldn't be shall include a concept plan, as how can you do a development agreement if you don't have a concept plan? This also contains another administrator control item where the administrator may waive the requirements in the annexation and zoning standards. Certificate of zoning compliance on page 2. This is mostly just a typo thing that I wanted to bring out. It says no zoning certificate may not be required. So it should read a zoning certificate may not be required. Under the following conditional uses, there are exceptions and waivers to the standards. And the change is to also include use can be changed. So instead of saying other than use, it's been proposed that it would say or use, which means you guys could change, or yeah, the city council could change the use of the property under a conditional use permit. So it just doesn't seem to make sense to me to change that from other than to or. Vacation of plats last month, you guys talked about this, and it was stated that public hearings are not needed for a vacation of plats. And actually it is required under a vacation of plat as opposed to a vacation of easement.
It's
I just
vacation of
wanted to
easement. I
clarify.
think that's clarified with John on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Terms of accessory structure also is administrator control under a CBD district. Again, that takes away public input via the city council. A3, A4 zoning district dimensional standards. Accessory structures, you guys went back and forth over if it should say should or shall regarding the 5-foot setback. My thought is if the fire department wants a 5-foot setback, it should be shall instead of should, because you cannot move a 10 by 19 foot building out of the way, which was kind of discussed last month. So my proposal is it either should be shall, or maybe it should be designated that maybe structures up to 100 square feet could be up against the fence, and then anything bigger has to be set back 5 feet from the fence line.
Here, you need to,
It would need to be 7.5
was,
because of a
we'll
single
let
strip.
John talk to these here in just a second, real quick
Okay.
on that.
Yeah,
On,
we can do it.
after Mr. Todd's done here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Page 3, residential districts. Again, it's another administrator control change, which again takes public comment out via the city council. And then you guys talked about this architectural styles. Maybe it should read exterior treatments instead of styles, which refers to a traditional or modern or Cape Cod or farmhouse. Grading. Maybe this is a typo that you guys discussed last month. It says that early grading permits may be issued at the request of the applicant and review and approval of city staff. I think that should read city engineer. Should be the one reviewing and approving early grading permits. And then hillside development, just a suggestion on number 5, where it reads completion of, well, it says slope stabilization right now, but it should be slope. My suggested reading on that should be completion of slope stabilization no later than 2 weeks after grading is completed. And then the last item basically is, I think Kevin Nielsen referred to, he was looking for some landscaping information that he had submitted almost a year ago, and he didn't see it, and I know it's still not in the packet, so I'm not sure what the status is on that. And then my final comment is on Planning and Zoning Commission. At least 7 new powers of authority have been granted to the administrator just in Title 8. Several of these could potentially reduce public input. As the decision-making duties of the administrator position grow, it becomes clear that a Planning and Zoning Commission should be created to protect the interests of the citizens of Star and those within the impact area of the city.
Okay. John, do you want to talk to some of those real quick while Todd's up there, please?
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor and council and the audience. First of all, it's important to understand that the administrator control items that were brought up in no way is intended to remove the process from the public. These are all administrative applications, or they are intended to provide flexibility for the process. So for example, if a pre-application meeting has already been done previously, a lot of times we meet with the applicants or potential property owners in advance of the meetings or in advance of submitting applications. And so it just gives the administration flexibility for that. Same with the neighborhood meetings. Again, it's not intended to take like annexations, subdivisions and things like that out of the neighborhood meeting process. It's for those minor applications. Let's see. The vacation of the plats, those are, the Idaho State Code requires for vacations to utilities that they have to go before the council, but they do not have to be part of a public hearing. And so that was to change that. However, staff has talked to the council, and we're going to revise that to make it clear that it's just for the utility vacations, not for like right-of-ways and things like that would need to come back before a public hearing.
Talk to the setback thing.
Accessory setback. Several of the council members did not want to regulate and have a requirement for 5-foot setback for an accessory structure. And so that's why staff put the word should, is to provide a homeowner the preference of the city to have a setback, but since they're under 200 square feet and they are considered mobile, that they could be, I think the intent of the council was to, or a couple of the council members was to have the ability to bring those up to the property line or the fence line. That was the reasoning for the should rather than the shall.
So things up to 200 square feet do not require a building permit.
Correct.
Anything over 200 square feet requires a building permit, which would have to follow our setback requirements and stuff.
Right, I think
So-
the fire department was requesting that setback for easier access behind the structure.
On
And
a,
if it's shall, or if it should, then
I
it won't have to do. it.
right, I think on
Right,
a
if-
200 square foot structure, in my opinion, can get moved a little easier than not.
I have a 10 by 16 foot structure with a car in it and a whole bunch of Christmas decorations. It's not going to move.
Well, I do too, but I mean,
I've got a crane.
he's got a crane. He can move it for you. So, okay. What else, Sean? Anything else?
Mayor
Additional
Chadwick.
uses.
Is that Council Nielsen?
Yes, sir. I've got a couple of questions. All right to ask, or do you want me to wait?
Well, Sean, do you have any more to say real quick on the?
Yeah, I'm just reviewing it.
All right, hang on one sec there, Council Nielsen. Let's let Sean finish and then we'll have you ask the
Okay.
questions.
Under the residential districts where it says the administrator can decide on architectural treatments, keep in mind administrator refers to staff. And so that's part of the architectural committee. So that's why that wording was in place. The next one, dwelling unit design, staff has already changed the term to mean exterior treatments, or actually, let's see. Yeah. Find it here fast. Exterior elevations is what council had suggested staff change that wording to. Regarding the grading, we have changed that to city engineer for that sign off. We've changed the word stope to slope in the hillside development section. I'd have to defer to our city engineer on the requirement for a 2-week completion of the grading. I cannot address that.
Ron Morgan?
We did not specifically specify a time period in there because the standard SWIP federal requirements require 2 weeks. And so we've just left that to the standard federal requirement of the 2 weeks with no activity.
I just brought that up because it's actually in there in the staff packet.
So you're saying, okay, so I'm trying to read this. So up above, this is what it says. Completion of slope, not stope, stabilization as rapidly as possible after grading, but no longer than 2 weeks after grading. And then
Right.
you're suggesting completion of slope stabilization no later than 2 weeks after grading is completed. It's just a matter of wording, right?
It's semantics, but now it sounds like Ryan's saying that the 2 weeks shouldn't even be in there.
So the 2 weeks doesn't need to be removed?
We can leave the 2 weeks because that is standard. That is what the federal SWIP requirements are. So we are consistent with that. So it needs to be done as quickly as possible, but it should not be longer than 2 weeks for federal requirements.
And so does the federal requirements use the wording no longer? What's the wording they use? I mean, if we're talking semantics, I just want to make sure that we're following.
Right.
I'm not sure the
Federal
exact
side.
wording from the federal requirements.
Okay. All right. We'll look at that one.
Could we just put no longer than the SWIBA allows? We're gonna follow their rules.
Talking to Mike,
If we're gonna follow their rules, we might as well use them as our resource,
right?
as the source in the code.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
So we'll change the, but no longer than 2 weeks into, to meet the SWIPA requirements.
SWIP requirements, yep. All right, Councilman Nielsen?
Yeah, thank you. So a couple of, or I guess first a question. Sean, on the neighborhood meeting, you said that the intent for the admin to waive the meeting was to do something for a minor application. Can you talk more about what that means?
Yeah, you're going to give me a second here to find the examples.
So while you're looking for that, just a comment on the setbacks and the fire department. My recollection on that is the primary concern that the fire department had for setbacks is the space between primary structures. And since this conversation's about a 200 square foot or less secondary or accessory structure, the thought is those aren't going to be placed within that setback area between the primary structures. And maybe we need some language to address that specifically so that we don't get, a shed placed in there and you end up with 1 or 2 feet of space between primary structures and lot lines.
Chief Victor? You want to comment on that?
Sure. I was trying to recall the whole conversation we originally had on that. And I think that was correct, Councilman. We were concerned that shortening the portion between the fence and the actual house, right? Because we are at 7.5 feet, but then you take your allowance for HVAC utilities, which is 2 feet, we're back to 5, then you add your shed in there, then that gives us a small pathway, right? I understand where the gentleman's coming from, the shall versus should, right? That leaves it open for a lot of interpretations. So I think to stay with that 5 and be secured, we may switch that to shall, question mark.
To shall, question mark?
I'll see your question mark and raise you maybe some additional language that we don't allow anything to interrupt that primary setback.
Yeah, 6 by 10 shed can fit in a 7.5 foot area, and then you'd have no setback anyway.
Right. So we need to make that setback, inviolate. So I like that idea, but I also want to maintain the opportunity to use my property for a small shed at the very back where no setback matters at all.
Could we say something about, like the perimeter of the house? If I don't know.
Or just that it shall not intrude on the setback between primary structures.
Okay.
Does
Did you get
that
that, Sean?
work?
Not, you're gonna have to give me the wording at the end. I'm searching this other stuff.
Can you say that again?
Just
Yeah.
let me know at the end what you want.
Just
You said shall not, you said, Kevin, you said shall not intrude.
Yeah, within the setback between primary structures. Or the setback of the primary structure.
Shall not
and we
intrude
could
on the
say-
primary structure setback.
Yeah, like, and maybe side setback. So let's be specific about which one we're talking about.
Okay. All right. Wrote that down.
When you're ready.
So shall not intrude on the primary structure's required side yard setback.
Yep.
It's just side.
Yep. All right. Anything else, Councilman Nielsen?
Just that neighborhood meeting, or what
Oh,
is a
yes,
minor
Sean, thank
application?
you.
What's the scenario where the administrator can say that we don't do one of those?
Maybe minor, I guess minor, maybe the word minor is not the correct way to represent that. I think what staff was looking at was like, for example, like the development code text amendment, it's required to have a public hearing, as you see in 81A6, but you're not going to have a neighborhood meeting requirement for a code amendment. Be a lot of neighbors. Same with vacations. Vacations, again, as I stated, it's a state code to have them come before the council, but not as a public hearing. And so even though I struck that, I'm going to have to rewrite that because some vacations, for example, right-of-way vacations do have to go through the public hearing process, but
Vacations
Utility
and
va-
flats have to go through a
and-
public hearing.
vacations of plats, yeah. So that was the reason for that flexibility. Again, it's not to try to keep the public.
Is it worth having a public neighborhood meeting, even if nobody shows up, just so that we have an open policy that a neighborhood meeting is always required for that kind of thing?
Problem is if you advertise a public or a neighborhood meeting, the public assumes that they can come to the city council public hearing and testify. And if it's not required to be a public hearing for like a vacation of a utility,
I think we're
They'd have
talking about the
ability.
neighborhood meetings that happen before they ever get here.
No, that's what he's talking
that's
about.
what I'm
too.
saying.
So he's talking about on a vacation of a utility easement, there is not a requirement to have a public hearing. It's just a requirement to bring it before council to vote on.
Which is why we.
Public doesn't get to speak to
It'll
it.
be it can be on a consent agenda. It does not have to be a public
Right.
hearing.
So could you just add those certain cases in the code so that it clarifies it?
Items
Fair
that don't require public hearings.
Right.
We can-
So
we-
items
yeah,
don't
I can
require.
list out every possible scenario if that's what
Some
council
way
wants.
to define it so that it doesn't look like we're trying to sneak at
Mhm.
something.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman?
it kind of feels like there's a piece of information that's missing from our dialogue. Like is there a neighborhood meeting required for every public hearing? And that's what we're trying to fix? What are we trying to fix?
John? You studying?
Studying.
My opinion that the neighborhood meeting is directed to try and for public input is for subdivisions and applications of that kind of change. And the administrative is trying to fix utilities and stuff that nobody generally cares about but us.
I think where I'm getting a little confused is the question was about the neighborhood meeting, but then we started talking about things that no longer require a public hearing. There's a connection there that is missing in my mind, and I think it might either that or something else is missing from the conversation. Like we don't have all the pieces for me to put it together.
So my suggestion is going to be that we just remove this portion for tonight from the rest of the vote, and then we bring it back at a later date with more information.
Mr.
So,
Mayor, or let's just take the administrator waiver out of the neighborhood meetings. And then I'll just I'll further define what requires the public hearings and what requires the neighborhood meetings. How's that? That way, I mean, we're going to get to the same place, but at least it won't appear like we're trying to circumvent the process.
That
So-
sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Council Nielsen?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Todd.
Yes.
All right, Miss Nancy? He spoke for you already?
Well, actually, can I have like a minute and a half of her time?
You had 14 already. Yeah,
Just conditional uses, the word or use, real, I guess that's two words, is really kind of troubling me that it sounds like you can give a conditional use and then change the use of that conditional use to something that wouldn't be allowed in that area by including it in your ability to waive city and state codes and standards. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but on page 2, under conditional uses, I'll read the whole thing. Applicability. The provisions of this section apply to all uses identified as conditional use within this title. In addition to other processes permitted by city and state code, exceptions or waivers of standards other than use may be permitted through issuance of a conditional use permit. That's how it's written now. It is proposed that it would say, in addition to other processes permitted by city and state code, exceptions of waivers or standards or exceptions or waivers of standards or use, which means you can change the standards of use.
I'm going to ask Chris.
Right, it's kind of a legal.
So, Mayor, conditional use permits always have a public hearing. And so the way this has typically been interpreted is that like you could do a variance, you could do development agreements. There's a number of ways to get alternate uses standards or whatever for a project. And a conditional use permit could be used in lieu of any of those. The way it's currently read is that you can't use a conditional use permit to allow a use on a piece of property that maybe wouldn't otherwise be allowed through the current zoning ordinance, right? So our zoning ordinance, as you all know, we've got the big table. It tells you what uses are permitted, conditionally permitted, or not permitted. And the way it's currently worded, something that's not permitted in a residential zone would not be allowed to be permitted through a conditional use permit. By changing the word from other than to or, the city is suggesting that you would be able to bring any use in. It's still going to go through the public hearing process. The public's going to have a chance to comment on whether or not that use should be allowed there. But that's the reason for the change, as I understand it, is that it actually gives more flexibility for the landowner to say, well, we're in a R1 zone, and an R1 zone that says we can't do this, but because of where we're located and the things we're doing, we'd like to be able to do that. And the city has the right to say yes or no. The public has a right to comment. But it opens the door for that type of an application. So it's nothing that would necessarily surprise the residents. Everybody's going to know about it, have a chance to comment on it. It just gives more flexibility to the landowner for additional uses that may not be specifically allowed or conditionally allowed in the zoning ordinance.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, it's really specific to the PUD ordinance, because the PUD ordinance, it does allow take uses that are not normally allowed. Say for example, you have a commercial zone. Let's say you have a residential zone. You do a PUD, your PUD ordinance allows you up to, I believe it's 25% of a non-allowed use to be built into that PUD. And so what that does, that cleans that up, because otherwise, if you read it, it says that a conditional use permit, it would just be the waivers and the standards. It wouldn't be the use. And so that's why we're adding the use in specifically for those PUDs, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Mayor, may I comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
We already are changing the use under conditional uses. So to now also allow to change the use under a conditional use would allow you to bring in light industrial into an R1 zoning. It's not a listed conditional use that's allowed. But by putting or use, potentially you could put in industrial stuff into a residential area or a PUD. Every other city that I looked at has other than use in their language. And that's how we've always had it here. And so that's,
So Chris,
it's
what's your
somewhat concerning
suggestion
to me.
based off of that?
I don't have a preference one way or the other. It's just a matter, doesn't allow an applicant to just bring any use in. I think that's not a correct statement. It allows them to ask for any use. That's true. But that, again, goes through, it's still going to go through the neighborhood meeting process. It's going to go through the public hearing process. The city council is going to have to sign off on whatever that use is. I think in most cases, 99 out of 100 or 999 out of 1,000, there's no way a light industrial use is going to go into a residential zone. But could somebody ask for it? With this change, they could. In the conditional use permit, again, our zoning table does identify those things that are specifically allowed through a conditional use. This would expand that if the city wanted to. But I personally don't have a strong preference one way or the other.
Okay.
If the council wants to allow applicants to have additional flexibility, then I think the change makes sense. If the council's comfortable with all the conditional uses as identified in the zoning table, and you can obviously amend the zoning table to include more conditional uses if you wanted to and provide additional flexibility that way as well. But I mean, legally, I don't have a problem one way or the other because there is a specific process you're going to go through before you get to the end. And this isn't just saying you can do whatever you want on your property, no matter what the code says.
All right, thank you.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
Sean, can you repeat what you were saying about, like, you added this in for the PUD specifically? Is that why the change? Or what?
Yes, this is to be more consistent with the PUD ordinance, which does allow you to bring in a non-allowed use under certain circumstances within a planned unit development.
Okay.
Okay.
And so then it's kind of treating the conditional use. I mean, it kind of follows the same like process. Well, I mean, it's similar to a PUD then. Yeah. Okay.
Councilman Nielsen, do you have anything further?
Yes, sir. Just along these lines. So Councilwoman Salmonson, I think your question is really, really good here because there's a big difference in my mind between a planned unit development where this is contemplated as a use across the development. And people will know, well in advance that move in or set up a business there about those uses. And a single homeowner who may be coming to get a conditional use permit for all kinds of things. It seems like it introduces a scenario where maybe if we do this, it may not make any sense to have zoning tables anymore of which uses are allowed and not allowed, because at any moment we could say, yeah, not allowed use could be allowed. And I think it introduces complexity and uncertainty and a lot of gray areas.
So the suggestion of the council is to leave it at other than?
At this point, that would be my suggestion.
I would
Okay.
agree with that too.
Okay. All right, any further comments, Councilman Nielsen?
No, sir.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, staff and
Sir.
council, for all your hard work over the 8 months during this.
Thank you for this as well, for your input.
Okay, anything further, Sean?
Not on this title, sir.
You what? I'm sorry?
Not on this title.
Not on this title. Okay,
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman,
I had a couple of things.
Okay. for staff or?
I guess we should discuss it now, right?
Yep, sure.
But or do we want to close the public hearing or we keep it out? Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
No,
Just some minor things that I noticed. I did go through, it looks like, from what I saw, all of our changes that we had from our last meeting and the workshop, they were all into this latest copy here. But I did notice a couple of things, just minor. Let's see, first one was on that conditional use table. let's see, it would be,
Page,
it's 83A3.
can you give me the page, please?
Yeah, 10, page 10. So we have a convenience store with and without fuel. And then down below, there's another one that says gas, fueling, and charging station with or without convenience store. And the more I thought about that, and so what caught my eye is basically these are both the same thing. I was just making sure that the uses were the same. And the River Center, they're not. One's conditional, the other one's not permitted. But as I thought about this, so, we can just make them the same. But as I thought about it more, I'm wondering if we should change it to convenience store without fuel. And then the gasoline, fueling, and charging station is with or without a convenience store. Because in my mind, you think about, I don't know if we'll ever have one, but if it was a 7-Eleven or, it's just a convenience store without gas, we might allow one of those in somewhere where we wouldn't allow gas. So I'd be interested in others' input or comments or thoughts.
What's your thoughts?
Look at it. Let this for a couple minutes.
Well,
So I see what she's saying. It's a convenience store with or without fuel, right? We have the conditional uses. We're adding the with or without fuel on this, correct? In the green?
yes.
Yes.
Before it was just convenience store, and then we had a gasoline, fueling, and charging station with or without a convenience store. So it's almost like we just need to
Just
take out with or without fuel on the
fuel.
top one
Leave convenience store there, yeah.
Yeah.
and leave it as
Makes sense.
convenience store and make them all conditional instead of permitted uses like we're trying to do. And then have the second one there, that's gasoline, fueling, and charging stations with or without a convenience store where we're making everything a conditional use. I think that's what you're.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But do you want you want a fuel station in your river?
River Center.
I don't
So
think, I
would-
don't think you do.
Yeah, I would change that to conditional, from not permitted to conditional.
Okay.
All right, the other item, okay, so page 12. On number 2, we're talking about the exterior elevation styles. I thought we discussed last time about the floor plans, right? Currently, it states that the dwelling, like the neighborhood, let's see, nowhere within the development shall any fewer than 5 different exterior elevation styles, which agree. And then it says, and or floor plans be located adjacent to each other. I think last time we had some discussion about this, but I think, personally, I don't think that we need to keep the and or floor plans in there, because as long as the exterior looks different, I know they can do a lot of things with, the exterior, and the inside can have the same floor plan. So I'd be interested to hear others' thoughts on that, if you're okay with taking out and or the floor plan.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen?
So my question on this is what constitutes a different exterior elevation? Is it simply, a false window, or, a stacked fascia instead of, single board? Because the intent here is to prevent cookie cutter. And that's why initially we had floor plans. It wasn't styles or elevations. It was based on floor plan.
Right.
So it feels like we're moving away from that, and a creative architect or builder could easily, create a different elevation, same floor plan, and we'd still end up with cookie cutter mirrored houses all the way up and down the streets.
Right. So we want to keep the floor plans
Keep it
in
in.
there.
Mr. Mayor,
Al-
I think with either
Chris?
one, to Councilman Nielsen's point is we don't know how you really define what's a different floor plan either. Is an extra 10 square feet on the back of the house a different floor plan?
Right.
Right. I mean, so there's, there could be some very, very minimum differences from one to the next. This might be a situation, we had conversation earlier about, administrative review. But, it may be something where you allow staff to have kind of final approval or final say on whether or not this is being complied with. So that you've got some kind of city review over, whether it really is different or not. A different elevation, they might even say, well, it's different paint color, so it's a different elevation. Or I did brick instead of stucco, so that's different, even though it looks identical. So unless we go down the path of really defining what different is, we may want to consider having some sort of city review, almost like a design review type process that's, I think, can be done at staff level, doesn't necessarily have to come to the council. So that there's, where the city has some opportunity to look at it and say, okay, yeah, we're fine with, this many houses in a row that kind of look like this, or that's not really a different elevation or a different floor plan. Because I think we can run into trouble if we're trying to figure out how to define what different means.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, so since we haven't really defined what that difference is, then I'd be in agreement then that we need to keep that floor plan in there. So, okay. Okay, moving along.
You have another one?
Yeah, just a minute. Let's see. I think I had one. Does anyone else have something? I can look through my note here.
Well, just a question or a continuance on that. So are we taking Chris's advice on this? And
Yes, keeping it as it's stated now with the floor plan.
well, but I think he was going even beyond that, that like if the floor plan could be just as ambiguous, going into more of a staff review.
Sean, what are your thoughts? I mean, I think for purpose of moving this forward, hopefully tonight, that if we were to add it later, the architectural reviews piece, or Sean, would you be comfortable coming up with something so that we could add it tonight?
I think we should leave both terms in, the exterior elevations and or floor plans, and then let us come up with maybe their definition, or throw it into the zoning compliance review that we're going to be doing with all building permits, all residential building permits, and we can flush it out that way. Otherwise,
Okay.
I mean, we can write a 10-page code here just on what exterior elevations mean. I don't think we're trying to do that. We're trying to just have that have that ability to review it and to make sure that the houses aren't the same cookie cutter over and over again.
Yep.
You
Okay.
comfortable with that, Kevin?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think the last item I had was on page 19. Item K, let's see, 84C3K. So if we look at our current code, I think it's staying in there, which is 84C-5B. Sean, is that correct? That section 84C-5 is staying in the code? Because I haven't seen anywhere this can be deleted. But there's a reference in our current code that talks about Christmas tree sales, and that the date is January 1st. So I just want to make sure that we're consistent with that. We're also changing this date to 5 days after Christmas, or we're going to change what we're proposing here tonight to January 1.
Does
I-
January 1 refer to fireworks?
No, it is pumpkin. So I'll read it to you. Item B, such sales, the topic is standards for seasonal sale of agricultural and food products. Letter B is such sales are limited to a period of time not to exceed 2 consecutive months for pumpkin and Christmas tree sales and 4 consecutive months per calendar year for other uses. Christmas tree lots shall be removed by January 1.
Okay, so we'll make sure that that's
Okay.
consistent.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, any further questions? Comments? Councilman Nielsen?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. You two gentlemen up here. Just tell them what the typo is and we can fix that. Todd didn't find that typo. Come on,
Is
Todd.
it my STOPE?
No, it's just page 17. Down in J5. It has a capitalized IE and refers to 2 specific items. It should be a lowercase e dot g dot. It's not an IE, it's an EG.
Oh,
You got it.
Sorry, I catch that in
I know.
college papers. That's how you.
Great papers. I get it. All right. Hearing none.
you got something?
You got anything, Councilman Wheelock here? Okay, it's 8:08 and we're going to close the hearing on the development code amendments here and go to council deliberations. Or a motion.
So Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
so, we have a few changes that we're probably going to be making. Sean, are you writing these down? Okay. So you can repeat them. All right.
Any discussion, Councilman Nielsen? I'm going to make sure that you're included. I don't lose you.
Yeah, I'm here. You haven't lost me. I think it's easier for discussion to perhaps occur in the room and I can chime in, but
Okay. Everybody good? Or do we have a motion,
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
I'll start with a little discussion. I'd be interested to know everybody else's thoughts about the fire. Well, I guess we already talked about it, the condition for the structure. So I think I support the statement for, the side setback shall not intrude within primary structure side setback. Everybody else good with
Shall
that?
shall not intrude on the primary structure required side yard setbacks.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Regarding Mr. Collins' input here tonight, I noted one thing that stood out to me was on the first page, item 81B-1, the annexation and zoning for rezone. I've kind of struggled with this as well while I've been on concept or while I've been on council. When we don't have a concept plan, and I think I would support that we have to have one. So we should change it to shall include the concept plan.
But understanding that concept plan can change when they're being.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Right. But I think it's important that we have an idea
I think
of
Chris-
what,
Let Chris weigh in on that
Yeah.
because that creates.
I think it's fine. The city can certainly require concept plans, but not every applicant that brings you a rezone application already has their project planned. And so to require a concept plan, certainly with large projects, when you're talking about planned unit developments or, large things like Willowbrook or even, I don't even know what the acreage amount, should be, but concept plans are typically routine because the city says, well, we don't want to just bring you into the city and rezone you in R2 and not know what you're going to do with it, right? But somebody that maybe just wants to rezone a small 5-acre property or even an acre property that they're, bringing into the city may not know, and there may not necessarily need to be a concept plan for something that's that small, even though they may say this is what we want to do. We want to do a light office thing, development. You may not see the drawings and all that kind of stuff up front because an applicant may say, well, it's not, I don't want to pay for the engineer to draw everything up and do everything if I'm just doing a small thing. The city maybe tells me no. So I think there's some room there for, at least the waiver of a concept plan. I understand that from the public standpoint, they're like, we want to know what's going to be there. And I get that. But we're also looking at the landowner's side of it. And there's a question there of, does every single one that brings in, any kind of application to the city, does, no matter what the size of the project is or what type of project, they have to bring you kind of a map first. Again, you can require it. It's not illegal to require it, but sometimes there's room for flexibility for, kind of small projects that, may not warrant.
Mr.
Maybe
Mayor,
the formalness of the concept plan is what we're talking about. An engineering firm drawing up something when it can be a small picture of what they're doing. Something, you're looking for something like that, or spending of the money to show you
Mr.
what
Mayor,
they're looking.
the Watson, for example, the one you just approved is a perfect example. They annexed the property and zoned it so they can build a house. Making them come back and do a concept plan. That's the flexibility we're looking for. In most cases, when a developer annexes a piece of property, he has a preliminary plat or a PUD attached to that. And that's what, and we can even go further and require it for that type of residential development. But we want to have the flexibility for the mom and pop that are just wanting to annex a small piece of property or even a 5-acre piece of property that's not going to be subdivided or not going to have a conditional use permit associated with it. That's what we're trying to
So
get
what
the
if,
flexibility for.
what if we were to add something like, if it's less than, say, 4 units, and then that concept plan may be waived?
I don't think you want to put a specific number on
No.
it because every piece of property and every property owner is different. What we're trying to do in this code is to make it flexible for everybody, not just to cater to the development community or not just to cater, it's to provide some common sense into the planning process. That's all we're trying to do. It's not to go around the public hearing process or it's really to help everyone but the developer who's got the resources to do a full concept plan and not just the mom and pop that just want to.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I think that's true too. But I just want to be careful that we're not also kind of putting ourselves in a position where we can't then deny something, like because we don't like, or not that we don't like it, but because it's different than what we had thought it was going to be.
Every annexation and rezone has a development agreement. You can always put a specific condition on that annexation or that rezone that, if they're going to redevelop in the future, they have to come back to council. Or, you can.
And you always have that opportunity in a public hearing to table it, the requirement to come back with
Correct.
that.
With the
Correct.
We've done that in the past.
And we've done it in the
tabled them
past where you
past.
feel it's necessary. Yep.
All right, I appreciate the discussion there. Thank you.
Okay, anything further? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, anybody else have anything?
I'd love to hear staff's conversation or on the changes, the conversation about the on page 3 of Todd's packet that says 83B-3 residential districts. Administrator can decide on architectural treatments and overhangs. And it's administrator control. They're an architectural committee. Would that make sense to have that?
That's what that refers to.
So
I think we've.
It refers to them looking at it during the zoning compliance review.
Yeah.
On that. It's never going to come to the council. You're not going to approve every single.
no, I
architectural-
don't want to
Yeah, I think that's what,
get that.
Yeah.
I just want to. So is it better to, I guess, administrator control architectural committee instead of administrator control? or
Well,
is there a
administrator control is
difference?
what he wrote down on here.
Right.
That's his
I guess
interpretation.
define the difference for me so that I can hear it and know it. Good. I just want to be clear on what I'm approving.
So basically, at the time, so at the time when a building permit gets issued, at that point, they're going to issue a zoning compliance certificate and they're going to review the setbacks, making sure they comply with that, making sure that the architectural finishes are what we put on our code. Yeah. Right.
Perfect.
Okay. Anything else? Hey, anybody got a motion?
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
before I make a motion, can I have Sean read the changes?
You have the changes, Sean?
Put you on the spot. I apologize.
I'm not going to have the exact wording. You guys can look at that when I bring the ordinance back, but I'll just tell you what I'm going to change. First one is to better define the pre-application and the public hearing, or the neighborhood meeting, as far as what uses are what's necessary to fall into those categories. See what else I got here. We got the Christmas consistency with the Christmas tree standards, Christmas tree lot standards. We will change the specific punctuation that was brought up. I need to go on each individual one for that. Also, keep in mind, staff is going to go back through and find with a comb and make sure all the numbering and everything is consistent before we codify it. The conditional use section, we're gonna take out the or, just have other than use. Going to modify the vacation. Let's see. The vacational plats to clarify that that only vacation of utilities would be a consent type of item and not a public hearing. Modify the setbacks for the accessory structures. Shall not intrude on the primary structure required for the primary side yard setback. On the grading, make sure we have already changed it to city engineer. Punctuation for stope versus slope. And then that portion of the no longer than 2 weeks, we're changing that to meet the SWIPA standards requirements.
And then on 8.1B2 that Mr. Todd brought up, where it says no zoning certificate may not be required, it should say a zoning
Yes,
certificate.
yeah,
may
that was
not be
part of
required.
the punctuation.
That's part of your punctuation. Okay, good. I just want to make sure you had that. Okay.
That's what I had.
And then on the conditional use is on the table. We want to make sure that that's all captured.
Yes, and the gasoline convenience store.
Yeah, convenience store without, and then we strike out the with and without fuel. And then on the gasoline fueling and charging stations, you're going to make it a conditional use over there in the River Center versus a no.
We're making it not a prohibited use in the,
Well, it is going to be prohibited,
or fuel station. We'll allow it for a convenience store,
but not with the fuel
not a
station.
fuel station,
Okay,
the River Center.
all right, good. Okay. You want to make the motion?
Yeah, I can go ahead and
Okay.
make it. Sorry. But I'm not saying all that. All right, Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman Solomon.
that we approve the UDC updates with the changes as stated.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, second by Councilman Hershey. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey. Aye. Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
There, okay, good. I thought we lost you for a minute. All right, that motion carries. Thank you. Let's move on to the municipal code updates. It is 22, and we are going to continue this hearing on the municipal code updates. Are you talking to these, Sean, or? Okay,
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. Next public hearing is for the continuation of the public hearing for the municipal code titles. We have it advertised as titles 1 through 7 and 10. We're actually, the changes are to titles 3, 4, 5, and 6. By 3 through 7, 3 through 6, and yeah, okay. 3 through 7, thank you. Staff did work with the police chief after our last meeting to come up with some language for the alcohol, specifically to titles 492 and 493. I'm going to let Ryan talk about that so I could take notes because I can't do them both at the same time. Staff also removed the animal ordinance per discussion with council, which was Title 4, Public Safety. We're going to bring that back at a future date to allow us additional time to review some state guidelines to bring back before you for consideration. I'll let Ryan, I guess, answer any questions you have related to specifically to the alcohol section, and then any other questions you might have on titles 3, 4, 5, and 7.
so I will tell you that the sheriff's office, or Chief Hessing, and then the sheriff's office legal team reviewed that alcohol stuff and are supportive of the wording and whatnot that's in there. So they think it's defensible. Any questions? Because if not, I entertain a motion.
I was slow. I was looking.
You're looking
Sorry.
at your microphone.
Looking for my notes. I did have.
Councilwoman, okay?
I had a start, Ryan. All this paper. Jeez. This one. Okay. All right. Page 4. Thank you for making these changes. It seems like it's a little bit clearer now. But I did have a couple questions. So number 3, on page 4, top. So my question was, does this mean alcohol vendors, at events, must put their drinks in a cup and they can't sell cans or bottles? Because it looks like, pursuant to valid, so we just got this right this evening, so bear with us a little bit. Pursuant to valid city special event permit issued by the city. Yep, that the alcoholic beverage is held in an opaque plastic container that's not labeled or branded by an alcohol manufacturer or distributor, and that such possession or consumption does not occur on or in the Boise River. So I guess my question was for during events, do they, like if there's a vendor, like a beer garden or something, beer vendor, do they have to use disposable cups?
Isn't that already covered in the or distributor by the, if it's by the alcohol manufacturer? Would that be the cup or can that it was sold in?
Oh, is that how you read that?
So yeah, Mr. Mayor and Councilwoman Solomon, I'm going to tell you right now, that's a great question that I don't have an answer for.
Okay.
This language came straight from Terry Durden at the Ada County Sheriff's Office. And so this is what is currently being used in Boise, this exact language. So unless Sergeant DeBee happens to have an answer to that, I'm going to have to defer and say we'll get that answer back to you later.
So here, just real quick, let's remember that this section 3 refers to C above where it says exceptions.
Exceptions, correct.
The provision of this section shall not apply to the possession or consumption of any alcoholic beverage by a person who is at least 21 of age when such possession or consumption occurs. And then it's got the colon there, right? And then pursuant to a valid city special event permit issued by the city, provided that the alcoholic beverage is held in an opaque plastic container. I think they're referring to it that it does have to be an opaque plastic container. On that is how this is reading.
And Mr. Mayor, that's exactly how I would read it
Yeah.
as well. But again, we can get clarification on that and come back to you on that. But again, this is what was given to us by the sheriff's office.
Yeah, I just found it interesting. Not that we have, like big beer brouhahas down at the park, but it seems to me as a, like the beer vendor might want to be able to sell it in their Bud Light can or whatever, rather than putting it in a disposable cup.
As Councilwoman Thomason, as I read this, they would need to remove it from the original container and
Right.
put it into a cup.
Right. Okay. And then my other question was 493. So the next section down. Let's see. So special. So if there's a special permit, event permit obtained, do these still apply? That they cannot have alcohol like in the parking lot?
No, I think this is an event permit is different. This does not pertain to an event permit, like your chili cook-off.
Yeah, right.
That's what-
Right,
what she's referring
right,
to, right?
right.
'Cause
Well,
you're a
that's
beer
one
garden.
example. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
It doesn't say that in here, so I just want to make sure that it doesn't apply.
so I
If
think
there's,
that
if there is a permit.
it comes back. So in the actual ordinance itself, I believe it's section 494, I believe, is, and well, here I have it right here, is the permit section of our alcohol ordinance. And so that is not changing. So anything that is currently in the permit section of the ordinance is not changing at this time.
Which would allow you to do that. This is saying that you simply can't just go to the parking lot of the park and just pop cans of beer. You can't go into the restroom at the park and drink beer.
Yep.
We don't want you
Correct.
drinking beer within 75 feet of the skate park with all the kids there, or within 75 feet of the playground if you're at the park, right? Or within 200 feet of any organized 18-year-old or younger event at the park. Believe it or not, Little League.
No, and I'm
Parents
in
do
total
that.
support.
You don't.
I'm in support of all of that. I just wanted to make sure, we don't.
No,
It's open
it's a great
for-
question,
But
Councilwoman Thomason.
but section 494, which you don't have in front of there, still allows you to do
Yeah,
that.
and we are
Mr. Mayor.
not modifying that at all.
Who? Is that you, Chris? Chris, sorry.
That's fine. I was gonna, the 493A, the second word, it reads possession of consumption of, it should be or.
Oh, possession or consumption, yeah.
And again, that's just, this 493 is just the general kind of everyday rules that govern alcohol in the parks. Special event permits are separate, which we've already talked about, but these are the guidelines that apply, kind of 24/7, 365. Yeah, and unless you have a permit to do something different, these are the rules they're going to govern.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. All right. So we'll change that to or,
Yeah, thanks for catching that.
and that was all I had.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, when it comes to that paragraph 3, I don't know if you all saw it, but we got to keep it as is. That's a total tribute to Toby Keith and the Red Solo Cup. I mean, come on.
Right, instead of the opaque plastic.
I don't even drink and I know that. And you guys,
You could mandate it be red Solo cups, not just.
it doesn't have to be mandated. It always is.
Tribute well noted,
Should be well.
Councilman Hershey.
I just want to add a little tear.
Councilman Nielsen, do you have anything to say? Questions on that?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any further, do you have any more questions? Miss Jennifer, sorry. Okay. How about you guys over here? Okay, I'd entertain a motion, or I guess it's, what time is it? It's
That it?
8:31, and we're going to close the public hearing on this and go to council deliberations and or decision. Anybody?
All right. I'll go for it. I'm fine with leaving the opaque plastic container in there. And then down the road, if it's an issue, we can always change it later.
Right.
Yeah, so I am comfortable with all of these changes. So excited to move ahead. I'll make a motion that we approve.
The municipal code update.
Yep, municipal code updates as presented with with one change of in 4-9-3A to change of to or.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Simonson.
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 4C. I think what everybody's here for.
Mr. Mayor, just keep in mind that staff will be bringing back the ordinances, the separate ordinances for
Those ordinance will come
last
back.
two public
June
hearings.
18th.
We'll try to get it for you on the 18th.
June
Yes.
18th?
Yep.
Yep, June 18th, you'll have the ordinances to approve on that. Yep.
And Mayor Chadwick.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank staff, especially Sean and everyone that has worked on this and all the public as well have participated. Thank you for participating and providing your input. Appreciate it. It's been a long process, but we've done it again.
We'll start it over.
Mr.
All
Mayor,
right, thank you.
Sean?
Mr. Mayor, can we take a 5-minute break?
Okay, it's 8:33. We're going to take a 5-minute recess to 8:30. All right. Councilman Nielsen, are you there?
I am.
Okay. All right. I'm going to call this city council meeting back to order. It's 8:39. We are going to open the public hearing for the Earlbach properties. I just let everybody know what the process is on this. The city staff I will open the public hearing. The city staff will make a presentation. The applicant will come and present their project as well. Then we'll have the public speak, and those that sign up for it, then those against it and those that are neutral will speak, and each person gets 3 minutes at that point. And then the applicant will have a rebuttal phase, and then the council, I will close the public hearing. The council will deliberate and either make a motion to approve, deny, table the project on there. Okay? So it is 8:40, right on the button, and we're going to open the public hearing on the Earlbach properties. I'm going to ask the council if they have any ex parte contact communication regarding this project.
No.
None.
None.
Okay, thank you. Sean, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. You have before you public hearing for the Earlbach Properties Annexation Development Agreement and Private Street applications. The applicant is requesting an annexation and zoning with an R1 residential zone and a development agreement. Development is located at 23853 Canada Road. Property is 32.64 acres in size. Future plans for, or the immediately future plans for the property is to develop 4 residential lots being accessed by 2 private streets. Application requirements including submittal requirements, agency transmittals, legal noticing, and site posting have all been completed per the requirements of the Unified Development Code. The application has been reviewed for compliance with the current city comprehensive plan and the Unified Development Code. You do not have any late exhibits before you. Staff is recommending approval with conditions that would be placed within the development agreement if approved. And again, the location of this property is on the northwest corner of Canada Road and Foothill Road, where New Hope Road intersects it. And this is the conceptual plan for the property. As you can see, there are 4 lots highlighted in the green boundaries. And staff will stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff at this time? None,
Mayor
okay.
Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen.
Yeah, Sean, wonder if you could just talk a little bit about the topography and how that may or may not affect the large lot size of the 4th lot.
Mr. Mayor and Council, yes, the topography is mostly hillside area, moving north from Foothill Road to the northern boundary, up against the irrigation canal on the north boundary of the property. Our city engineer has reviewed this application briefly because it is not a preliminary plat, is just a annexation and zoning. And he could probably answer any specifics you have on the hillside.
Councilman Nielsen.
Thank you. I don't have any specifics, just wondering, generally familiar, just having driven by that area over the course of 20 years several times, and knowing that it's quite steep. And so looking at that, it feels like that may play into why that one's so big, or if there is going to be further development expected.
We'll have the applicant can answer those questions for you when they come up here as well. Any further there, Councilman Nielsen?
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
All right. Are you good, Sean? Okay, we'll have the applicant come up here, state your name and address, please, for the record. And then you have 20 minutes to present your project. 1 hour.
skateboard park is named after not Erlebach, but Tom Erlebach. We were a little discouraged about that. We could have all celebrated. But anyway, that's who I'm related to. He's my cousin. So we grew up in Ontario, and there was the Catholic Erlebachs and the Mormon Erlebachs, and it was a lot funner at the Catholic. But this development we're doing is pretty self-explanatory. I've got two daughters, and they're going to live on two of the lots, and my wife and I are going to live on the other one. And it does have a considerable slope to it, which makes it difficult. We've worked with the canal company to put a retaining wall up there to make sure that canal, and we've had that all engineered. And then I have a friend of mine that's worked for me for years, Bob Klein. He's going to live in that house on the fourth lot. As far as we've got permission from Ada County, it borders Canyon County and Ada County, and we had to get permission from Ada County on the Canada Road, and then permission from Canyon County along Foothills. But I don't know. It's pretty. It is what it is. We don't. As far as future development, I'm 65 years old. My kids will inherit that, and we might someday put lots down at the bottom there, and that could very well happen. We've kind of plotted some preliminary lots in there, and it looks like we could get about 9 more lots if we wanted to, but that's probably about it. And they'd be on 1 acre parcels. The house that I'm on the hillside there is pretty hilly, so probably not a great place to develop, but except the one house that's there with the pond. So do you have any questions?
Any questions of the applicant? Kevin Nielsen, Councilman, did you get your question answered?
I did. Thank you.
Hey, Councilwoman?
Yeah, and so the street, it'll be a private, or is it proposed to be a private street?
It is.
Down the road when you, okay. And so we're just doing annexation and all those, later. Okay. So that corner of Foothill and Canada, and then I've driven in that area too a few times, and there's that 4-way stop right there. I don't know, would you be, how is that frontage going to be maintained on Foothill Road? In the past, like I think that there was big blackberry bushes or something.
It was, yeah.
Yes, and they're not there anymore, gone. Are you going to like keep that trimmed up, or is it going to be bushy and real, or are you going to maintain that property, that piece, or not?
Yeah, that would be our plan.
Okay.
We have to bring a gas line in, and the reason we had to tear out all those bushes and trees is because the gas line is going to go right along the Foothill Road there.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, and so I guess one thing we have a stretch on Floating Feather that is owned by ACHD, and it gets out of control weeds, and it's been very hard to get them to clean it up. And so I want to prevent that from happening elsewhere in the city. And so if we can add if we need to add some sort of condition now, or would it be now, then would you be open to that?
Absolutely.
Yep,
Yeah,
okay.
we definitely want a nice development.
All right.
Is there any restrictions on fences along there?
no, the fencing, except for you can't use barbed wire.
Okay, yeah.
That's your restriction.
I cleaned up a lot of that off that property.
Or chain link.
Yeah.
Barbed wire or chain link cannot be used there, right?
And that corner right there, people are coming down that hill, and it can get going pretty fast. And it's almost like a blind corner if you're driving east on Foothill, and like to look up the hill. It's like there could be somebody coming down, they don't know that there's a stop sign right there. And so I'd like to see that corner kind of cleaned up so that it's better
You mean
visible.
Down all trees, so
Right.
there's a vision.
Or maybe not the trees, but maybe the bushes that are there so that we have a vision triangle in
We
our
have to
city
abide by
code.
that with ACHD and Highway District 4
Okay,
on that, yeah.
You know, when we met with the county and that road is in the plan to be changed in the near future, Canada Road. It's too steep. It's, they're gonna figure out how to weave that around and make it not so steep. So we've seen the plans for it. And there'll be a lot of changes in that intersection. I think naturally, over time, I don't know what their timeframe is.
it takes
but-
a long time.
But anyway, our plan is I've taken down most of those trees. I think they were all just sucker trees and they just let them go.
Okay,
And there was barbed wire weaved in all of them and spare tires in all of them. And it was quite a mess. So we've taken most of that out and I'm going to continue taking all those trees out. And then there's a right of way both on Canada and Foothills of 40 feet. And so I'll be back behind that right of way with new planters or new trees. And then we'll have some type of berm and a fence around it is our plan.
okay.
Inside that, we'll have a running path or something.
And then I did see from the fire department that they're requesting all 4 units to have sprinklers. I would guess it would be all of the units that would be in this area. So we'll
My
probably
understanding, it
add
was
that too.
a requirement based on square footage.
I
anything
don't think
under-
that that's what it said in his response, but I'll go back and look at it.
Yeah, I believe it was a square
You'll-
footage requirement.
You'll do whatever they say, right?
We will.
Hopefully.
We'll
Okay.
get a building permit.
Yes, right.
Definitely will.
Councilwoman Solomon,
Yeah.
this is the city engineer.
Oh, sorry, Sean, or Ryan.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that sprinkler requirement. Currently, there is no fire hydrants located in the area. And for the sewer and water district, this actually is in an elevation higher than what our sewer and water, or than our water pressures can service for these upper homes. And therefore, in order to construct fire hydrants, he'd have to put in a booster station and a lot of extra stuff. And so that's part of the requirements where the fire hydrant requirement, or the fire sprinklers came from.
Okay.
And
so-
we drilled the wells and we drilled every well so we could accommodate a fire sprinkler system.
Okay.
So they'll be designed
Okay.
and they're all over the square footage requirement.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
So I want to just real quick to follow up with that. I just want to follow up with Chief Victor here about the fire sprinklers. If this gets approved, all 4 units need to have fire sprinklers because we're going to put that in the development agreement.
Yes, sir. So the applicant currently does have approved applications through the fire district because this had started off in the county. All I did was transfer those conditions of approval, and applications will just get transferred over to the city, basically. So square footage, it exceeds the 3,600 square feet. And
Of the building envelope.
of the, yeah, so fire flows, we look at everything under the horizontal pitch of the roof,
Okay.
not just livable space. And so the fire flow calculations exceed what we have on our trucks. And so at that point, the owner is responsible to provide the fire flow. In a perfect situation, we'd have fire hydrants up there and they'd be every 400 feet and meet our standards for flow. But in this case, because of the elevation, like the engineer stated, we did put the requirements that the fire sprinklers were required in these structures, and it's going to be all of the lots. Now, if the applicant comes back later on at a future date to do something with that lower lot, those can be serviceable by fire hydrants, and so we wouldn't put any conditions on that. What my staff report was stating is just the lots that he's currently proposing to build on.
Okay.
And we've worked with the applicant and they've been very, they've worked with us to come to all these standards with the private roads and gates, and then also maintaining the fire flow with sprinklers.
Okay. Did I answer your question, Jennifer?
Yes, it did.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
you.
Kevin, any questions?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any further questions of the applicant at this time? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, sir. You could,
You're all fans of Seven Brides for Seven Bread, the streets of that name is Ponopus Lane.
oh.
Ponope.
Okay, we got public testimony that's coming up now. You get 3 minutes to speak, and please state your name and address for the record. And when you're speaking, if the council happens to ask you questions during your 3 minutes, it doesn't count towards your 3 minutes. We'll continue it on. So we have Mr. Robert Heim.
My name is Robert Heim, and I live at 23996 Camaraderie Lane, which touches, my property touches the subject property on the north end. I'm also the president of the Camaraderie Heights Homeowners Association, which owns Camaraderie Lane. Camaraderie Lane is the gray line that runs along the west side of the property, the subject property. I might be speaking out of turn here because the map that we were sent with the letter notifying us of this meeting shows a driveway leading from Lot 4 southward to almost to Foothill, and then it jogs over onto our property, onto Camaraderie Lane. Is that still the intent to go with that?
So real quick, just
Sorry.
ask your questions, and when he
Okay.
comes back up to rebut, we'll have him answer that for you.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, thank you.
Yep.
Uh,
And I just want to, just so I'm clear what you were asking. So on the map that you saw on that bottom lot 4, you're showing it going down and then connecting to your lane
It
to get out
becomes
on the New Hope is what you're saying, right?
part of Camaraderie Lane as opposed to carrying all the way down to Foothill.
Mr. Mayor, for clarification, that is the proposal. So one of the private roads does go along this western boundary down to,
So the
Camaraderie
map
Lane.
that's on here is incorrect?
the map that's on here is incorrect.
Not correct.
It's not correct. It does not show that second private road.
And that's my purpose for speaking today. Camaraderie Lane is a private road. Is jointly held by the 5 residents whose properties are connected to it. And it's marked as private for that specific reason. We'd like to keep it that way. It runs directly along the subject property on the west side. And unlike Canada Road on the east side of the subject property, Camaraderie Lane does not appear on the site layout that came with the letter. And it runs parallel to a driveway proposed that is supposed to run from Lot 4. A neighborhood meeting was held on December 27th to discuss the project, and at that time, a drawing of the subject property was provided showing 2 semi-parallel roads running east-west with no north-south roads or driveways pictured, which is basically what you're seeing in this map here. The drawing provided with the notice of tonight's meeting shows a driveway that runs parallel to Camaraderie Lane and shows a bend in the driveway to the west on the very southern end of that driveway onto our private road, allowing access to Foothill Road. There is apparently a road easement that is being used for that proposed drawing. The easement is on our property for the use of the county in situations that they deem necessary. We don't know of any county request for an easement or for the use of the easement. We don't know of any permits that have been issued. And as the owners of the property, we have not been notified of anything to that effect. This proposal has not been discussed with our HOA, nor has any consent been given in this manner. although this driveway is not shown as a road, it may it may not be a part of your approval process. There is a reference to two roads and on this drawing that came with the letter, it only shows the main road, the upper road that's in black, highlighted in black there, and the driveway that parallels Comadre Lane.
Real quick, sorry, is this it, Sean, right here? That's what they got?
Yes, that's the correct.
Can you
site
blow
plan.
that up a little bit?
Okay, so you can see in the lower corner there, maybe you can't. I don't see it there. But the driveway is not connected to Foothill. It crosses over the property line and onto Comadre Lane, and we do not wish to have that happen.
Okay.
We know that plans are tough to change once they're approved, so we would like to see that change before
All
we
right.
move forward.
Thank you. Real quick, did anybody have any questions of Mr. Heim? No? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your
Oh,
time.
did you have a question? I'm sorry. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before the gentleman sits down, I can kind of clear that up a little bit. So if you look at the aerial right here, and you see Comadre Lane. Sure. So one of the proposed private streets would come down the western boundary for lot 4. And then this line right here, this is Highway District 4 right of way right here. So Comadre Lane comes down and then connects to that right of way right there. I think the proposal of the applicant, and I think what he's been talking to Highway District 4 is to come down right here and access this portion of the public right of way at this location. I believe, is that correct, sir? Is that what your understanding
Yes.
is? Okay.
It's my understanding that Comadre Lane comes all the way down to Foothill.
The pavement comes all the way down to Foothill. The right of way for Foothill is this line right here, this chunk right here.
Is that right of way usable for any private
It's public
citizen?
right of way. It's public right of way dedicated to the Highway District.
I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sean Heim, are you here? Did you want to speak? You put a dash in there, but I just want to make sure that's what that meant, is not to speak. Okay, very good. Thank you. Yep. Miss Laura Scott?
Hi, my name's Laura Scott, 23945 Comadre Lane in Star. And so we weren't aware of that. So we weren't informed of that and weren't aware that that was public access. So my only question would be, if the rest of the property below Lot 4 is going to have houses put in it, then is that where they would all come in and then go into potential other houses or subdivision? Because not knowing very much, we've just heard things that maybe Canyon County doesn't want to put any more driveways on Foothill or allow any more driveways off Canada Road. But we just haven't been given enough information. So I signed up on opposed, but I'm only opposed to that connecting to Comadre, because we don't know if that's going to keep on going and be for a whole bunch of homes. That's my only opposition. And then, so we didn't know what was necessitating it, whether it was county regulations, and are those going to be for future development? And otherwise, we're looking forward to this, and it looks beautiful so far.
It looks good.
So we're just concerned about
Mr. Mayor,
how
I
many
can-
cars
I
and.
can address
Go
that.
ahead, Sean. Well, Sean's going to address, I think, some of your questions.
So to answer the question, the proposal in front of you is just for the annexation rezone. That they have submitted a conceptual plan. So you can adopt the conceptual plan as part of your conditions for the development agreement. And the request is for a private street in this location on the western boundary to access Lot 4. That's the only proposal at this time. So any future development would have to come back through the council, public hearing, neighborhood meeting to talk about any future redevelopment of that other space. And it is my understanding from talking to Highway District 4 is that they would allow another road between Comadre and Road. So if this did,
I couldn't quite hear.
if this did get redeveloped, more than likely would have a road halfway between Comadre and Canadian Road off of Foothill, according to the Highway District.
So, yeah. So so for tonight's proposal, it's just for that private road to come down and connect into that right-of-way easement that we've been talking about. So you understand what he's saying, though, if any future development goes on there, it still has to come from before the council and go to the highway district for access off of Foothill.
Okay.
And
If
they're
that's-
telling him that they would give another access between your street and Canada Road somewhere in there where all the rest of those properties will have to take access on the Foothill. That's what they're saying today. Who knows what they'll say next time?
So it wasn't that they weren't allowed to put it because of a county regulation to just bring it straight down? Or I heard something about you can't have two driveways next to each other.
I think
So I
what they're
didn't know if they
doing,
were
from what Sean was describing, since that is a public right of way there, where part of your road comes into, they were just bringing it down along the property line to connect to that. So you have a singular driveway onto Foothill.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah.
Miss Laura?
Well,
You'll wait? Okay. All right. Mr. Michael Scott?
Thank you. My name's Michael Scott, 23945 Comadre Lane, and I'm related in some way to this lady that just spoke. The only thing I wanted to ask, and I don't know, Sean, if you would know the answer to this question, is one of the things that we had just very recently here, as of this afternoon, talked about, is allowing a driveway to cut in further up Comadre Lane to reduce the amount of driveway that they would necessarily have to pave to come down and connect at the right of way. And we thought maybe that could be done as an add-on to our HOA and with a contribution to help with the maintenance of the road. This is only a hypothetical solution to what may or may not even be a problem. So I just wanted to mention that because that might end up saving money and also help out with our small number of people in the HOA to help with the road. But I don't know if that's even allowable.
Mr. Mayor, I can address that. Yes. And staff would actually prefer that option to the one, but it's completely up to you because it is a private road that is owned by your
And once again,
association.
We haven't had the opportunity really to share that with the other folks there. So
So what I would recommend, Mr. Mayor, and the council, if you decide to approve this, is have a condition in here that's flexible enough. And the only reason they have to have the private road is to provide frontage and access to Lot 4. So if they were to get access north onto Comadre and had an agreement with the folks that own it, that would meet the intent of the access. We would require a easement, but then that would meet the intent of the access and frontage for that lot. And then you guys can have a contract with them that they're the only ones that can use it unless they come back and ask for more access.
Okay, good.
That is very, very doable.
we love
Thank
it
you.
when neighbors get along.
So,
yeah. Well, it looks like we're going to go along great. We think the project there is being very beautifully done, and we're appreciative of our new neighbors.
Well, thank you. So I do have a question though for you, Sean, real quick. With the 4 houses, are they going to have to come back and preliminary plat this?
No, there's two parent parcels, and both of them are eligible for one-time divisions each. That's how they're getting
Oh.
the 4 parcels.
Then you get
Yes.
okay,
Correct.
very good.
Any future subdivision or division would require a subdivision plat.
And they would have to come in and do
Correct.
that.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's all that signed up to speak there, sir. If you want to come back up. Not sure where your attention span is right now.
Yeah, yeah, so maybe we can put some rumors to bed here, but when we went, we originally were going to come off the entrance off of Can 80, and we were going to make a lane all the way back. And the city wouldn't allow that, okay, because it's in the back. So we had to have a frontage street. So then we went to the county and tried to get a lane that went straight from Foothill next to Comadre, and they wouldn't allow that, too close together. So the county suggested that we use the right of way to spin off in there. We don't like that, okay? We don't like that at all, all right? And so we would much rather come up Comadre and go in, okay? Because the only other solution we have is to go somewhere in the middle that they will allow, okay, and then put a road all the way in where maybe a future road would go if we develop the other streets, and then cut all the way over and in, which would be a pretty spendy deal. And if we're going to do that, we might as well develop all the lots at that point. So those are our only options, right?
Okay.
And that's why we've got that cutting over. We don't like that. We would love to get an easement off of Comadre and work with them. And that would be the best solution by far.
All right,
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman.
So thank you for that. But I'm wondering, for the other, like this section, would all of the other potential like future parcels, would they all, pretty much everything would they all go to Comadre
No,
Lane and go down
absolutely,
and across?
absolutely not.
So they would they tie into the
Foothill.
road that you're building
No.
up there.
Foothill, no, that we
Or the
get,
Foothill.
they will give
300.
us an access off Foothill today,
Right in the
to
center.
your point.
Well, okay.
And that would come in and then it would tee and go both directions, okay?
Okay.
So the only access, if they were to grant access, if Bob as the president would grant access, it would be to Bob, to lot number 4 only. That's the only people that would access.
That would be the only one that
Yep.
would use Comadre Lane.
The other 3 homes would come off of Canada.
They'll all
No, it would come
go
up
to
Foothill.
Foothill.
No, the other 3 homes up there that you're in.
Oh, yeah,
in
sorry,
the
yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Possible future homes.
Future development
Not-
would come up.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Any further questions of the applicant?
No,
Councilman Nielsen?
No questions.
Okay. Any questions of staff right now? I think you had a question I think you wanted to ask. Oh, did I ask your question for you or? Okay.
So
Do you have any further comments,
Yeah,
Sean?
and Mayor, we can't, the city cannot force them to take access off of the private road because it's owned separately,
Right.
which is why they're proposing the private street. So it's up to the highway district on access points on the Foothill. And so that's why they're suggesting that they would bring it down. And then this is a very unique circumstance where there's actually a little bit of public right of way right here. As you see, it's not anywhere else along this stretch. But that's what the highway district has recommended rather than having 2 driveways next to each other.
Okay.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman?
So, we often see that with development, that's the only time that we get the sidewalks built. And so I'm wondering if we need to, put some sort of, something in the development agreement where they can, like, not a bond, I don't know what the term is, but, like, towards a sidewalk, future sidewalk.
So I will say on a project like this, if they come back and develop that on the bottom, that would be up to that part of that development to build it out. It's not required to build out sidewalks on a larger lot subdivision like this through Highway District 4.
Keep in mind, this is not a subdivision
Yeah.
plat, so the highway
Right.
district cannot require it. However, they're not asking for sidewalk
Correct.
Oh,
along Canada or Foothill.
yeah, so the lots that are, Mhm. But should we add a condition that if is it necessary at this point? No.
No,
Later.
because when it comes back, if it's a subdivision thing, that's where the sidewalks will come into play.
or if they're
in-
individual
in 30
parcels
years.
that
Right.
border.
If one of the parcels was to front onto Pineda or
Or Foothill.
Foothill, I would recommend that, like, if lot four was down on the corner.
then we
But
would-
because it's not, you're going to get a chance to review that entire thing with a future preliminary plat.
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
all right. Want to make sure we're covered.
Okay. Any further questions of staff?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, hearing none, it is 9.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just real quick, Ryan Morgan, city engineer. Just to circle back on the slopes that we're talking about at the very beginning. Most of the slopes in this area, range between the 10 and 25% slope range. So with the exception of one small corner of one of the buildings, none of it is in that 25 or steeper area that we are considering a no development area. So we may work with the builder of that one home to maybe rotate that just a little bit. But other than that, all of those are in that 5 to 25%, which does require hillside, but is not within the 25% or greater concern.
Okay. That answer your question, Kevin? Because I think you asked that at the beginning.
Yeah, I did. That's great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Thank you there, Mr. Ryan Morgan. Okay, it is 9:15 and I'm going to close the public hearing and we're going to go to council deliberations. Anybody?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Wheelock.
I support it. I think it's a great development. I like that, they're gonna work together and figure out how to have Lot 4 join Comadre Lane and help fund the serviceability of that road. It saves them money on the building of a road. Lets the neighbors get along. We all like that. I think this is a nice open project. Someday that may develop the bottom and Canyon District 4 will let them get onto Foothill then. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward for me.
Okay. Any further comments?
Going to make a motion.
Motion,
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Make a mo-
Councilman Hershey.
Mr. Mayor, I make a, excuse me, motion that we approve the Earlbach Properties annexation and rezone to R1. The file Alpha Zulu 2402, Development Agreement 2402, and PR 2401. I think that's all I have to say.
Any conditions that we need to add in, Sean, into the
don't-
development agreement?
Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that you include a condition of approval to maintain the vision triangle at the intersection of Canada Road and Foothill,
As noted.
as including any removal of bushes or trees necessary. We will have our standard weed abatement condition of approval in the development agreement as well. And then I would also like a condition recognizing that the private street for Lot 4 will not be necessary if the developer and the owners of Comadre Lane come to an agreement on access for Lot 4 only, which would include the recordation of a access easement for Lot 4 along that roadway.
Okay,
As stated.
as stated. Okay,
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second by Councilwoman Solomon. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson, Nielsen.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Thank you.
And welcome to Star, I guess.
And thank you for cleaning up that corner. That's beautiful. That's right. You can build a truck. All right, we're going to move on to action item 6A, which is a shuttle bus. This is to approve or authorize the purchase of a 2004 E450 shuttle bus in the amount of $16,999. We'll wait a second for everybody. If you guys could head out to the hall for me and you could chat there. Yep. Ms. Scott, can you guys go out in the hall and chat for me? Just so we can continue on with the hearing. Please, thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Be safe. All right, so this is a shuttle bus approval. Can you click on that, Sean, for me? Basically, this shuttle bus is going to be utilized by our Parks and Recreation Department. They're currently renting a shuttle bus for about $750 a week during the summer months. Yeah, for shuttling kids between these different programs we have here. Plus, it could be multi-use because I know the Parks Art Beautification. We're always trying to rent one, or not rent one, but borrow one from ACHD in the fall for some of their events. And so we're gaining and seeking approval of this. It'll come out of the general fund, out of our savings to purchase this. Any questions?
No, I'm all for it.
For it or against it? Councilman Nielsen?
Yeah, I suppose I'm for it. I had no idea that we were shuttling kids around, so.
Yep. Between our rec center and our parks that we have for the different programs that we got going on.
So we currently are moving kids around?
Yeah, we're renting.
We're renting one at $750 a week.
Oh,
Saves us
for
money
this
to buy
summer.
it.
Is that new this summer?
It's
The
new,
new
yeah.
program? Yeah,
Yep.
new, yeah.
All right, well.
Expanded.
So if you guys will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hershey?
I make a motion that we buy this Ford E450 shuttle at the listed price of $16,999.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Nielsen.
I,
All right, thank you. That motion carries. Moving on to item 6B, the ordinance. We need to introduce.
Oh, I got it.
You got it figured? Okay,
got it.
Councilwoman Solomon.
All right, I move to introduce ordinance 403-2024 and development agreement. That pursuant to Idaho Code, section 50-902, the rule requiring an ordinance to be read on 3 different days with one reading to be in full is dispensed with, and that ordinance number 403-2024 be considered after reading once by title only.
Okay, we got a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Nielsen.
I,
Okay, that motion carries. Now we need to approve the ordinance. We need that
I
back
can
up.
do it.
Way to go, Sean.
We have to still approve it.
We have to approve. We just suspended the rules. Okay.
All right, Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman.
I move that we approve ordinance number 403-2024 and development agreement, an ordinance annexing to the city of Star certain real property located in the unincorporated area of Canyon County, Idaho, more specifically located on Stump Lane in Star, Idaho, Canyon County parcel R34001010, and contiguous to the city of Star. The property is owned by Mary and Joseph Watson, establishing the zoning classification of the annexed property as rural residential with a development agreement, RR-DA, of approximately 7.17 acres, directing that certified copies of this ordinance be filed as provided by law, providing for related matters, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson.
Okay?
Nielsen.
I,
All right, that motion carries. Thank you. And before we adjourn, I just want to thank everybody for being patient with us at the beginning when our systems were down. That sometimes happens, and we want to make sure everybody is involved. And I want to thank the Collins too, because, you know, you try to help, and I love it. So it's a good thing. So I appreciate you coming in. That's right. We have a meeting tomorrow morning. I'll see you in 2, probably. All right. It is 9:23, and we are adjourned.